Smash Bros tier lists, they are literally everywhere on the face of the internet. From YouTube videos to random websites to even being showcased on a video back on this channel, which you should totally go watch after you're done with this one. In fact, they're so popular that I'd be willing to bet my entire life savings that everybody on planet Earth has at least seen one. Okay, maybe not, but whenever you think about competitive Smash Bros, tier lists are one of, if not the very first thing that pops into your head. And I mean, why wouldn't it? It's the main tool to define what characters are good enough to show solid results and what characters to avoid when looking for those results. But with so many top players picking up lower tier characters and still being able to place incredibly at tournaments, does it really matter where a specific character falls on the tier lists? Or even more notably, are tier lists themselves even that important? Well, first, I think it's important to look at what tier lists on Smash characters are mainly based off of, which is their overall tournament performance and viability in the current meta. It's also important to understand that frame data and moveset alone don't determine the success of a character. Don't believe me? Well, just look at Byleth for example. Before anyone had used Byleth in tournaments, most professionals were putting them at around mid-tier due to the relatively poor frame data on most of their moves and just their general low movement speed, including ESAM, Zero, Meister, and even tier list websites online, though they aren't exactly the most accurate source of information. But after MKLeo started using Byleth in tournaments and getting amazing results, most of, if not every single professional started putting Byleth higher in their tier lists, and is now considered a high tier character by the majority of players. Okay, real quick, I do want to point out that while Byleth did get buffed in patch 11.0.0, it was only to his up B, side B, down smash, and down B, moves that aren't used very frequently in his toolkit and only used very situationally, which means Byleth soared through the tier list not because of buffs alone, but because of representation. Now stop typing your hate comment. Actually, keep writing it. Boost my video more in the algorithm anyways. Although this is a really dramatic example, I feel like it should be more than enough to prove that tier lists don't really show how good a character is from their base stats, and it just heavily relies on either top player representation, pure potential that the character has, or a combination of both. Mostly a combination of both. But that heavy stereotype of these characters will always do better than these characters because they're higher on the tier list just isn't true. Well, at least in most cases. I hope no one watching this video thinks I'm gonna say that Ganondorf Fox isn't even match up. There's still has to be limits to clickbait, you know? Okay, maybe not. So after that entire spiel, you're now probably looking at your roster list and thinking, wow, since tier lists don't reflect the actual viability of a character, I can main anybody I want and win the next super major. Well, you'd be right if you were in wrong land. Because you're wrong. Incorrect, if you will. While tier lists don't directly reflect a character's skill to the absolute spot that they're at, there are still some boundaries as to what characters are actually capable of. In other words, no, you will not be winning your local weekly using Dr. Mario. However, with that being said, there is a very broad exception to this rule, well, at least in my opinion. But my opinion is always right, so it's basically gospel. Unless you are in the top 5% of all players, character selection based on tier lists probably, no, you know what, definitely do not reflect your overall success. The only people that actually let character tier lists affect their further progression in this stupid children's game are professionals who legitimately can't get any better, at least in a major way. Everybody can fine-tune their playing, but you can only get so far, and that's not really what I'm talking about here. The only thing that can get them further is to play a character that performs better in top play and can inherently carry them more than if they were to just stick to a fundamentally worse character. Everybody else who just plays this game for fun pretty much has a level playing field in terms of who they want to play as, since their skill levels can vary drastically and character optimization isn't the worst thing they have to worry about. Does that make sense? I swear guys, I'm not crazy. Essentially, no, tier lists should not affect who you want to main. If you get good enough at literally any character in this game, you will get results, as long as you're not trying to win a major or anything, which you're probably not if you're watching this video. Where they are on the tier list just makes that process easier or harder. Also, this may be a little bit of a tangent, but every single character in this game has some stupid exploit to carry them no matter how good or bad they are, because believe it or not, some people think that this game is well designed. Go ahead, take your pick here and pause the video to land on your character's stupid attributes. No, I'm not a pessimist, I just really like spending all my time editing super stupid jokes that don't end up landing that well. So to finally top off the entire video, are tier lists important in Smash Bros? Well, yes and no. Essentially, don't take every single tier list as absolute fact, and don't throw them out entirely. If you want to find a main that you seriously want to grind out, I would recommend looking at a well-made tier list to find out what character best suits you. Because while tier lists aren't perfect, since a lot of them are very biased towards whoever is making it, they still have a general grouping of characters that you should play if you want serious results, and they aren't completely useless as long as you take them with a grain of salt. They're an incredibly big cornerstone to the Smash community, and I don't see them going away anytime soon, especially since they've influenced tier lists for some of the stupidest topics I have ever seen.